Good morning. My name is Nasrullah Mohammed. I am the manager at Nokomis Daycare Center, and today I want to talk about what happened yesterday. Yesterday morning, I was called by the owner because unfortunately someone came in to our daycare. The suspect came in from the back. Our office doors was broken into as well. Unfortunately, we saw that there was important documentation, enrollment of the children, and also employee documentation that was gone. There were also checkbooks that were ripped from our check papers that were ripped from our book.
Okay then, very unsuspicious.
Monday, the People's Republic of China launched a simulated attack on Taiwan, using live fire drills to demonstrate the PRC's ability to blockade Taiwan's ports and thus close her off from the outside world. The scale of the saber rattling was immense. The Guardian reports, quote, by Monday afternoon, Taiwan's defense ministry said it had detected 28 Navy Coast Guard ships, including 2 that entered Taiwan's contiguous zone. At least 89 warplanes, the largest daily tally for more than a year, were counted, and a formation of 4 amphibious assault ships, which can carry dozens of rotary aircraft, was spotted 160 nautical miles west of Taiwan's southern tip. The purpose of this exercise was unambiguous. Quote, Colonel Shuri, the spokesperson for the PLA's Eastern Theater Command, said the drills were a, quote, stern warning against Taiwan independence, separatist forces, and external interference forces. A foreign ministry spokesperson, Lin Jian, said unnamed external parties were pushing the region closer to war. Any sinister schemes to obstruct China's reunification are doomed to fail, Lin said. Today's Chinese military is formidable, no doubt, and her navy is one of the best in the world. But beneath the surface, the country is plagued by numerous flaws, any one of which could prove fatal in the event of open hostilities. One huge problem in China is her government is a crumbling edifice, built more on selfishness and greed than principles like justice, fairness, and truth. This sort of problem can only be expected when you purge religion from every corner of your society in the name of soulless Marxist materialism, and then suddenly decide you want some of the nice things that your more traditionalist Asian capitalist neighbors have. As recently as October, Chairman Xi Jinping decapitated his own military, removing 9 members of the leadership across the board. According to the Institute of War, those removed include General He Weidong, second-ranked Central Military Commission, CMC, Vice Chairman, General Miao Hua, the CMC Political Work Department Director, General He Hongjun, the CMC Political Work Department Executive Deputy Director, General Wang Xiaobin, CMC Joint Operations Command Center Executive Deputy Director, General Lin Xiangyang, Eastern Theater Commander, and General Qin Shutong, PLA Ground Forces Political Commissar. Admiral Yuan Huazhi, the PLA Navy Political Commissar, and General Wang Houbin, the PLA Rocket Force Commander. General Wang Chunin is the People's Armed Police Commander, which is, even though it's called police, it's part of the military structure in China. The official reason for this purge was described as serious violation of, quote, party discipline and duty-related crimes involving an extremely large amount of money. If you know anything about what's been going on in China this past decade, you know this type of purge isn't exactly new. The country has been engaged in anti-corruption investigations for a while, and many of those investigations either haven't concluded or haven't made their findings public yet. Suddenly, being a high-ranking party member means you're likely to be disappeared. So here's a quote. The generals expelled on October 17th are part of a larger group of senior officers across all parts of the military whom the CCP has investigated or punished since late 2024. Taiwanese National Security Bureau, in other words, Taiwan's intel, Director Tsai Ming-yen reported on October 15th that over half of the 35 PLA generals, including 3 lieutenant generals acting as full generals, have been absent from public view for the past 6 months, and 16 of them since December 2024. The generals purged on October 17th include top leaders in all PLA services, except the Air Force. But leaders in every service and theater command have been targeted by anti-corruption authorities since late 2024. This wave of purges appears to be separate from anti-corruption investigations that targeted PLA Rocket Force and equipment procurement in 2023, removing the PLA Rocket Force commander and 2 defense ministers. There are real-world ramifications when the people running your military are opting to use substandard materials in order to cut corners and skim the savings for themselves, or when procurement processes are routed through a company run by a well-positioned relative, or when leadership is secretly selling hardware or intel. So it's a legitimate question as to who the Taiwan exercise is really intended to impress. Is it for the Taiwanese and our allies, America and Japan? Or is it for the people of China, who may be under the impression that her military is being run by a bunch of Nepo kleptocrats? Would you feel comfortable gearing up for combat if the people running the military were these self-interested jokers? Probably not. The battlefield is the wrong place to discover that your ship's diesel engine can't really maintain top speed without coming apart, or that your body armor is counterfeit. And if someone hands you a Temu parachute and tells you to jump, would you do it? Corruption is a crime of the state commits itself. It is the product of a purely materialistic and utilitarian view of the world. It's a natural extension of Marxism, a view where goodness is for suckers who think they'll be rewarded by some benevolent bearded man in the afterlife, when the only thing really worth having is in the here and now, right here on Earth. Now that I think about it, that's a perspective which is remarkably similar to our own Democrats in our country, isn't it? I mean, what is the Democrat Party but a team of American-hating communists and foreigners whose primary goal in life is self-enrichment? A few years ago, statements like that would have come across as a bit overheated, maybe a bit hyperbolic. But after a year of Doge, NGO scandals, missing Pacific Palisades wildfire relief, an Islamist communist mayor elected by foreigners in New York, and a nationwide bilking of millions of taxpayer dollars, of which Minnesota is merely emblematic, such invective can be reasonably considered a restrained mainstream take. All of these scams are about Democrats buying friends to make it look like their extremist platform is actually popular with the voter. They put out the welcome mat to every warm body they can loop into their money laundering scheme with the goal of buying votes. Like military corruption in China, our homegrown corruption isn't merely about moving a few pennies from column A to column B. Life isn't a spreadsheet. The ramifications are nothing short of the destruction of the very concept of American self-rule. It's not that Democrats are oblivious to the detrimental effects of their actions. It's that they see no upside in maintaining anything about the American Republic. That's where their hatred of America comes into play. It's easier to assuage any iota of guilt you might feel over your corrupt schemes if you convince yourself that you always wanted to burn the whole thing down in the first place. This means that while these scandals are motivated by greed, their implications are traitorous. People like Walz and Ilhan Omar aren't serving America, they're destroying it. As a former Mandarin linguist, I can't help but think about Walz's chummy relationship with China. You know, that country I just mentioned as having its own existential struggle against corruption. I feel like Walz was the PRC's vector to infect America with its own social disorder. Right now, the DOJ is surging resources to Minnesota in its investigation of this industrial-scale fraud. Surging didn't used to be a thing in law enforcement. There was a time when you found the crime and you simply investigated the criminals. But the DOJ has to make something of a show of its reaction. Like the PRC naval exercises, the show is meant to impress people on all sides of the issue. So does that fact comfort you? I think we're supposed to be reassured that the government is reacting with such overt vigor. Perhaps it's to make up for the fact that the same government has been turning a blind eye to this very same scam for over a decade. In fact, it's hard to see how things could have gotten this bad without a little bit of government complicity. As I've said in previous pieces, the DOJ itself is an extremely compromised organ. I have a special disdain for the judiciary because they're the loyal last line of defense, ready to get any Democrats out if they've been caught red-handed. Even if you can move heaven and earth to get the agents and the attorneys to do their actual jobs, the judges are always waiting in the wings with their get-out-of-jail-free card. Here again, I'll reiterate that you can't fix what's broken with tools that are also broken. Do we have any confidence at this point that the people at the top of the corruption are going to pay a price? So far, despite the reassurances from the Trump administration, there's been little cause for optimism. I don't blame the appointees necessarily. I blame the DOJ and the judges. But the scale of the corruption has finally reached a breaking point. This is a major national crisis, one that, like the corruption scandals in China, affect everything from normal law and order to national defense. Choosing to ignore it or cover it up is nothing short of surrendering the nation to people intent on destroying it. That's the crisis. That's the inflection point we've reached. There is no third option. We were already driven to this extreme point by the immigration issue, which is its own scandal operating in tandem with the bilking of millions of our dollars to foreign fraudsters. The Democrats were fine never enforcing laws they passed. It fell to us, the average citizen, to do the hard work of pushing for that enforcement. After decades of neglect, the laws are finally being enforced, and for that virtue, we are styled as the bad guys. We are again being called to do the hard work in response to this scandalous abuse of taxpayer money. That means trials, jail time, and remigration, which naturally also entails denaturalization. It's not our fault that we have to do this. It's the Democrats. But there's no getting around the fact that it must be done. If we don't, to quote President Trump on immigration, we don't have a country anymore. I've seen a spike in sentiment online after the Nick Shirley videos, hoping that President Trump will go much harder. And I agree with this attitude in general. One user on X opined that he hoped Trump actually is the dictator the Democrats make him out to be. Again, it seems that the only big criticism of President Trump is that he doesn't go hard enough. It's easy to look at Chairman Xi disappearing whole swaths of his own military leadership and feel a tinge of jealousy. As the meme goes, Jesus, I see what you have done for others, and I want that for me. Sure, Chairman Xi Jinping has power that an American president could never attain. It is definitely frustrating to watch bad people, especially bad people with an average IQ under 70, get away with humiliating the taxpayer. In the end, however, Xi can reserve for himself all the power he wants. It won't save China from the scourge of corruption because there is no agreed-upon belief in transcendent morality in China, just as there is no such concept for those things on the American left. Thankfully, for our country, we have a whole other party that generally does believe in a universal good and evil, as well as a transcendent intellect that both guides us as well as judges us. So the real hard work that we're being faced with this year is the fact that in order to fight this corruption, we must remove as many Democrats as possible from any position of power or influence. And, to paraphrase a popular military expression, the beatings must continue until their metaphysics improve. Like all good hunters, we must run the entire party to ground, spare no politician, no millionaire daycare owner, and no violent paid protester. This is the defining conflict for this upcoming year, and its outcome will determine if our country thrives or fails. Unlike China, America has a way out of the destruction by corruption because we do have an intellectual and spiritual moral backbone. But there's only one way. The good must step up to protect the innocent from the exploitation of the wicked. This is a test being faced by the country, which means this is a moment that demands an answer from me and you.